welcome. You're watching the Newshour Agenda. I'm Padmaja Joshi. Over the last 2 days, worrying pictures have emerged from Kerala. Pictures that were a direct result of the Kerala government's decision to relax the COVID guidelines for 3 days leading up to Bakrid celebrations in the state. Thanks to this, shops were kept open for longer and the movement of people, the curbs on the movement of people was also eased out. The relaxations were ordered between the 18th, 19th and 20th. The state government says this is to help people shop ahead of the festival. But this move has come even as in a parallel world, there was outrage over a proposed symbolic Kanwar Yatra in Uttar Pradesh. And by the way, the Yatra hadn't even begun. It was supposed to begin next week, but people were already upset in anticipation, and rightly so, because the movement of people they felt was going to result or could result in being a super spreader. Not only did all political parties unite in asking for cancellation, but the Supreme Court even took suo motu cognizance. Now, the result is that first Uttarakhand on its own decided to call off the Kanwar Yatra, and Uttar Pradesh government also followed suit. In fact, there were many individual Kanwar organizations who yesterday decided that they are not going to participate in the Yatra. As a result, today the Uttar Pradesh government told the Supreme Court that a unanimous decision had been taken to not have the procession at all. But even as this is happening in UP, in Uttarakhand, in Delhi, in Kerala, politicians are falling over each other to try and justify easing of restrictions on the movement of people.
ഇവിടെ ബക്രീദിന് അവധി കൊടുത്തതിന് എല്ലാവർക്കും യോജിപ്പാണുള്ളത്. കാരണം ഒരു വലിയ ജനവിഭാഗത്തിൻ്റെ വിശ്വാസ സംരക്ഷണവുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു ദിവസം. അതിനൊരു ആനുകൂല്യം നമുക്ക് കോവിഡിൻ്റെ പരിമിതികളുണ്ട്, അതിൻ്റെ പരിധിയിൽ നിന്നുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ അത് കൊടുത്തു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അത്
The left and the Congress was extremely critical about the Kumbh Mela when it's happened in UP. Now they are keep mum or they are silent on this. I don't know why they are silent on this particular issue. Be it the gathering of any religion or any caste, it should be condemnable. It must be condemnable. That's what the BJP think. Here it is, they are selective.
And just to put the beauty of this hypocrisy into perspective, I want you to take a look at some data. Data which is cutting across 3 states. 2 states where the Kanwar Yatra has been called off, and 1 Kerala where shoppers are flocking to markets. Now, today Uttar Pradesh, let's take a look at the data from Uttar Pradesh. It has as of today reported 40 new cases and 7 deaths. The number of active cases stands at 1,188. Uttarakhand, on the other hand, as of today, reported 34 new cases over the last 24 hours and the death of 1 person. The total number of active cases in Uttarakhand is 604. The Kanwar Yatra in both UP and Uttarakhand has been called off. Again, I reiterate, active cases in Uttarakhand is 604, in Uttar Pradesh it's 1,188. Now let's take a look at Kerala, where people are shopping with gay abandon at the behest of the government. Today it has recorded 9,931 new cases. 9,931, 9 times the number of cases reported in Uttar Pradesh. 58 unfortunate deaths have happened over the last 24 hours, and the active cases stand at a whopping 1,21,708. Even the IMA has called out the sheer callousness of this move. There is a plea which has been made in the Supreme Court saying that the government is playing with the lives of people, but the Kerala government is unmoved. It seems that in the universe they inhabit, this kind of appeasement is more important, is given primacy over people's well-being and their very life.
Since our test positivity is very high, the Delta variant is present and our vaccination rate is very low, it is not a time for a total unlocking. That was the stand of the National IMA. Kerala State Branch has requested the state government to open up more shops for more time so that there will be less crowd. Both stands are absolutely scientific. One, without any political or religious bias. So we'll have to target for more vaccination. We'll have to bring down the test positivity to less than 5. Then only a total relaxation is required.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, joins us along with political analyst Srijit Panikkar, N. Lal Kumar, political analyst, Sujata Paul, political analyst and former member of parliament of the CPM, Mr. Sebastian Paul. But before I come across to you, big news coming in. And remember, today the Supreme Court has told the Kerala government to file an affidavit, to file a response to the plea that has been made, an intervention appeal that has been made in the Supreme Court, asking for the relaxations ahead of Bakrid to be rolled back. And we are learning from our sources that in its affidavit, the Kerala government has actually decided to back their decision. And they are saying that widespread consultations with the disaster management bodies have been done, that the state disaster management body was consulted on each and every aspect. They are saying we will allow people to go out to the markets, but all COVID protocols and SOPs will be followed. The Kerala government took the stand after talking to various experts, and the local self-government decides on all these aspects. Mr. Paul, I want to ask you, how is it that even despite these pictures that we are showing you from Kozhikode, from Mallapuram, where people are out on the streets, you're still saying it's okay, we're fine with it? Who are these experts who are okay with these images that we are getting of people crowding the markets? Your state disaster management experts say this is an ideal scenario.
No, there is no situation like Kumbh Mela or the Kanwar Yatra in Kerala. It is only a brief respite is given for 3 days, just for 3 days. After 71 days of tough curbs, for the people to come out and have something, to purchase something. These the retail shops are permitted to open under strict surveillance of the police and under strict observance of COVID protocol. I don't think why there is such a...
Sir, I will pause you right there. They say that the pictures speak 1,000 words. I do not know if you have a television. It's literally like you and what we are showing on TV are two parallel worlds in Kerala. You're saying strict observance of COVID protocols. I am showing you pictures from Kozhikode where there is very apparently no COVID protocol being observed. These are visuals.
If it is happening, because of sorry, I cannot see the pictures now because there is no TV before me. Anyway, I believe it, I accept it. If it happens, it is for the police and the authorities to control it, to curb it. Even they can...
Sir, it has happened. It has happened on Sunday. It has happened today. And I'm sorry to say it might even happen tomorrow. You might not be able to see it on TV. It seems the government is not also able to see what's happening on the ground. We have got it on our cameras, but it's surprising that the government could not see what's happened over the last 48 hours.
Yes, I accept it. Tomorrow it will end. The thing is that no celebration or public events are permitted. People will remain in their homes. Even the mosques, masjids, prayer halls, churches, not opened. We cannot equate the situation with anything else happening elsewhere. There is no celebration, no public celebration is permitted. That is why I said the protocol is the...
Okay. And you can't equate it with the Kanwar Yatra, Sanju Verma. It's a false equivalence. You can't equate it with the Kanwar Yatra, where crores of people would travel across borders. None of that is happening here.
You know, Padmaja, I'm appalled and I'm actually amused at the sheer hypocrisy of the earlier panelists. The fact of the matter is that data may hide a lot of things, but data reveals quite a lot in itself. And I think Padmaja just gave out some numbers which tell the story of Kerala, which has been the worst affected, has done an absolutely shoddy job in containing COVID-related fatalities, and yet, instead of trying to take control of the situation, the representatives of the Kerala government are trying to brazen it out with impunity, which is nothing but disappointing and shocking. shocking to say the least. I'll just tell you something from where Padmaja left. What is the 3-day moving average of fresh cases in Kerala? 13,000. What is the 10-day moving average of fresh cases in Kerala? Over 15,000. What is the recovery rate in India currently? It's 97.28%. What is the recovery rate of COVID in Kerala? It is abysmally low at barely 89%. And one interesting data, Kerala and Maharashtra together account for 60% of the overall new cases that are being reported as of now, which means that Kerala is a big hotspot. And in the midst of all this, for you to come and say that, oh, there was a relaxation of lockdown only for 3 days, excuse me, by that logic, Uttar Pradesh has a test positivity rate of only 0.03%, vis-a-vis a test positivity rate of 10.76% in the case of Kerala. If with 0.03%, Uttar Pradesh showed the sensitivity and the sagacity to cancel the Kanwar Yatra, why should Kerala, with almost 11% test positivity rate, decide to go ahead with Bakri Eid, putting the lives of many at stake? Is this not sheer hypocrisy and insensitivity towards the citizenry of Kerala?
And let me again stress on those numbers, Mr. Sagir. You have Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh. Even if we add the number of active cases that they have as of today, Kerala has 10 times that number. And yet you go ahead with these relaxations, 10 times the number of Uttarakhand and UP put together, Mr. Sagir. And it was amazing, the number of people who called this the beginning of Armageddon for the Kanwar Yatra to start. But not an eyebrow raised. In fact, you are actually defending it in the Supreme Court. Mr. Sagir, Mr. Lal, can you hear me?
Yes. Let me tell you something.
How can you still go ahead and defend with data like this?
Can I speak? Can you hear me?
Yes, go on.
Yeah. First of all, you making a comparison between Kerala and UP itself is a blow for BJP in the future in Kerala. I am definitely sure. Why? Because making an illogical comparison between two states is it's itself speak a lot. What is your agenda? The agenda of Times Now today, what I felt is you wanted to make a comparison between Hindu festival and Muslim festival. This is the agenda. Speak properly. Speak on face. Because you wanted to say that when it comes to a Muslim. Wait. I don't like intervening.
Sir,
I don't like intervening.
That just shows how narrow-minded you are. That you would like to classify festivals as Hindu festival and Muslim festivals. There are plenty of people who celebrate both. I think it really speaks to your narrow-mindedness that you would bring up such a myopic and such a jaundiced view. It's not. It's as simple as that. I'm looking at both as an occasion of public gathering. For me, both of them are an occasion where people are gathering and there is overcrowding. But for you to have dragged in that angle is indeed very sad and jaundiced. So let's not even get started on who is agenda driven. Please go on and talk about facts. Please do not worry about agendas because I think your agenda and your viewpoint is amply clear to everyone watching. Go on.
Wait. No. This is a crystal
You
clear
may not care,
thing.
but I do care.
Madam.
I do care about what you're saying about me, and I certainly do not share your jaundiced view about how festivals should be categorized and celebrated. Please go on.
I will repeat, I don't care. Wait, I haven't made my first point. You should understand that I haven't made my first point. Because the earlier discussion you conducted with the other anchor was blatantly saying that. Because look at this festival and look at that festival and you speak about the appeasement.
Sir, speak for myself. I speak for myself. Do you want to make a coherent point or do you want to do a post-mortem of who said what? You please respond to me.
No.
And you tell me, why is it that a state with 1,000 active cases is under scrutiny scrutiny by everyone, and might I add, rightly so, under the circumstances, I would not agree with a mass movement of people. However, it has been 5 minutes that you are yelling and arguing with me, but have not said a word about why people are allowed to congregate in the fashion that I am showing you is happening in Kozhikode and Mallapuram. At least 2 places I am showing you.
Why are you so impatient? Let me make my point. Because your narrative, your picture.
No,
I'm not impatient. I do not take the personal comments kindly. I'm not impatient in the least. I'm patient enough to give you the platform, but I'm not going to allow you to make personal comments about me. Make a factual point. Go on.
I haven't made a single statement. Before that, another person wants to rebut. Isn't it? I am definitely repeating. I reiterate my point. Whether you throw me out or not, I don't care. I am saying you have an agenda. It's a split agenda. There's no doubt about it.
Sir, you are itching for me to throw you out and you to pretend to be a martyr. I will do no such thing. But I'm going to stop you from making personal comments, and I'm going to keep insisting that you come to the factual point. I'm sorry, I'm not going to oblige you with this zabardasti ka martyrdom. Please go on and make a factual point. Go on.
I told you I'm going to make this narrative is
Padmaja, he's got enough time.
You change the number.
He's got enough time.
You people, look.
Sir, a narrative has to be constructed. Narrative has to be constructed, and I really have to say again, this very disrespectful othering of somebody by you people is extremely jaundiced, small-minded, and very, very pitiable. But anyhow, I think we have got enough time. If you had any factual intervention to make, you would have made it. But clearly you have no such things at your disposal. Let me get in Srijit Panikkar also.
He's not been able to make one comment.
Yeah, Srijit Panikkar, just a second. Srijit Panikkar, the argument being made is, and I again go back to that point, is that you cannot compare a 3-day relaxation, which is going to be monitored, to a mass movement of people across borders, which goes on for 2 weeks. How would you respond?
Yeah, Padmaja, my good friend Lal has to first understand that, when we are making a comparison, the only point that we need to discuss, rebut, is that it has to be logical. So the only point is whether the argument that Padmaja has made in her introduction, whether it makes sense or not is the only question. But Lal was not addressing that point, and I have an objection there. Now, the one point that we have to understand is that there is absolutely zero conviction on the part of the Kerala government, nor is there any rationale behind the decision to impose and ease restrictions in the state. They do it almost at will. Now, the government, for all practical purposes, has been maintaining the view that the lockdown will help contain the spread. So it locked down the state until Thursday. Then it opened up the state for all communities for next 3 days. And after that, they are going to lock it down again. So what is the rationale behind it? What is the scientific approach that you're using for this? Now, based on the test positivity rate, you gave all the numbers. Based on the test positivity rate, Kerala is categorized into multiple zones. You have A, B, C, D, all these zones. D is the worst affected zone, where you have a 3-layer locking system. It is a triple lockdown area. Even the relaxations are given for those areas too. So I'm basically questioning the rationale for locking the state down for a period, opening it up for a community that is sizable. When you're actually making that comparison, you have to first understand that we are talking about relaxations for a community that is about 1 crore in size. And when you are actually easing relaxation, it is not just this particular community that goes for shopping. And that is what reflects of the images that you have shown of overcrowding at shops, even at roadside vendors. So I can only see religious appeasement here. Now, when the chief priest of the Syrian Malangara Church passed
religious appeasement, and just by the way, since you are an expert on agendas, Mr. Lal, let me also ask you then, what is the agenda of the Indian Medical Association, which has said, and I quote, IMA is pained to see amidst the rise of cases and seropositivity, the Kerala government has issued an order to ease out lockdown, followed in the state on the pretext of religious gatherings. It is unwarranted, inappropriate at this time of medical emergency, when many northern states like Uttar Pradesh, J&K, Uttaranchal have stopped with a constructive sense of public safety, the traditional and popular pilgrimage yatras. It's an unfortunate thing that a learned state of Kerala has taken these retrograde decisions. I repeat, retrograde decisions. What might be their agenda, sir?
First of all, you asked the question, are you answering for myself or are you answering behalf of me? Because the last time you were doing that. If you want to do that, you can do it. Or else let me make my point with your agreement. Because for the last question, I did not answer. You were answering to that question. Let us come to a conclusion on that regard. Because last time you asked me a question and you answered it. I did not make a point. Before that, you went to
I have just been waiting in silence. What is the IMA's agenda? My question, what is the IMA's agenda?
You look at your screen, my dear. You look on your screen. That is crystal clear. Let me make the point. You take the oxygen crisis in UP. Can you show me a single person?
I will not allow you to deflect.
Come on, this is
the topic is Bakri Eid. The topic is not oxygen crisis. Do you know the fatality rate in Kerala is 2.4%?
Can I make a point on the screen? Can you people allow me to speak? I am saying we had a definite crystal clear plan related to COVID crisis. We are the first state to lock it down. We did not wait for Modi to speak. We locked it down before that. We have a clear plan. I am saying a single person hasn't died because of oxygen crisis in Kerala. We had planned. We have oxygen backup. We know how to handle this issue as well. We don't need others. We don't need to make a comparison Kerala and UP to make a plan here. We know how to run it. You people were following us. Come on. So you are saying on a day you are saying we have to compare it with UP. Yeah, your plan itself is your plan you did not have a proper plan. You make the problem.
Your confidence and your assurances are very touching. It's really unfortunate that the 58 people who died today weren't so confident about the level of confidence that you are exuding, sir. Because you say we are completely prepared, we are on top of our game, we've got everything under control, and yet here you are with 58 deaths in the last 24 hours and 1 lakh plus active cases as of today, contributing to more than half the number of positive cases that we have over the last week. So your confidence, charming as it is extremely misplaced going by the data. But I want to bring in Sujata Paul and Srijit Panikkar. Sujata Paul, the other thing of course is this very selective concern that the Congress party seems to have. You had the Youth Congress saying, even before the Kanwar Yatra started, they were extremely concerned about its outcome and they said, this is plain COVID. You see, is this COVID appropriate behavior by the Yogi government? It is going to turn out to be a super spreader. And today we had Mr. Umen Chandy saying that this festival is a very important occasion. We must respect the sentiments of people who are celebrating. So a symbolic Kanwar Yatra that was to be held is devoid of all sentiment. But today there should be respect for sentiment, because sentiment is more important than actual living or life or being able to breathe.
Certainly not. And I think Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi has already made that very clear. This is inexcusable and unpardonable. If the Kanwar Yatra was wrong, then so is Bakra Eid celebrations. And it can be symbolic for, and the government has the responsibility. It is their statutory duty to ensure the safety of their people, the safety of the state, and in turn, the safety of the country. I come from Uttarakhand and I know how Kumbh has been a super spreader, how we have been affected by the COVID-19 of the people who have come to Uttarakhand, to tour Uttarakhand just because they wanted to indulge in revenge tourism. We know that we cannot afford to have a relaxation of even a minute, not even in our minds. So I would request the government of Kerala to rethink this and just stop this immediately.
You should tell Mr. Umen Chandy that. And this is classic good cop, bad cop Srijit Panikkar. The good cop, bad cop routine, the Congress has perfected on practically every issue. The central leadership says something, or leaders in Delhi says one thing. It happened with Sabrimala and now it's happening with this.
Absolutely. People on the ground here who have been practicing this appeasement politics for a very long time understand the politics of the state. and therefore they are resorting to all these things. Now, Umman Chandi is a very senior person in the Congress, and he's probably much more experienced than most of the people that we otherwise know at the national level. Now, even he is resorting to a statement where he says that the relaxations can be justified. Now, the biggest problem here is that all along, Kerala has been treating this as a home department issue. COVID management as a home department issue and not as a health department issue. And that is why they are unmindful of the recommendations of IMA and the entire medical community. And you could you could hear how Mr. Sebastian Paul in his opening remarks very callously said that the government has given restrictions, but if there is overcrowding, it is up to the police. Now, that is precisely what I have been saying. It has been treated as a home department issue and not as a health department issue.
Yes, and I agree with you completely. It is the administration's responsibility to ensure that such a gathering should not happen, because I'm sure that the Kerala government would like to maintain its record. It has ensured safety of its people, and it has had a very, very strict lockdown, which my friend has just elaborated upon earlier. And if the government has realized that and has different types of lockdowns happening in different regions depending on the kind of places there are, the kind of cases that are coming out from there, then they need to rethink it and they need to stop it. I am also upset that in the case of Kanwar Yatra,
Mr. Paul,
the Honorable Supreme
would you
Court,
rethink it? Would you rethink it? Oh, no. By the way, Sujata Paul, when it comes to the Kanwar Yatra, it was before the Supreme Court heard the matter today that the Kanwar Association decided to call it off, and Uttarakhand called it off even before it reached the court. Mr. Paul, would you rethink it? At least at the very least tomorrow, will the Kerala government say that the last 24-hour relaxations are going to be rolled back?
Definitely, because we are expecting something from the Supreme Court, some comments from the Supreme Court tomorrow. On that basis, and even otherwise, we will have a rethinking. And if any mistake is there, we are ready to make amendments, because this is a disaster situation. This is not an issue for comparison between two states.
Well, Mr. Paul, I'm glad that at least as an experienced former member of parliament, you've been honest enough to admit here that if the Supreme Court and your likelihood of the Supreme Court admonishing the government is going to be there, you are going to think of a rollback of some kind. And these pictures on your screen, we're going to stay with that. The pictures on our screen are extremely worrying because, like Mr. Paul says, the relaxations will end tomorrow. But the aftermath and the price we will have to pay for such mass gatherings is going to haunt us. I hope it doesn't happen, but from the looks of it, it's going to haunt us for many, many weeks to come. Let's hope it doesn't happen and better sense prevails. For the time being, thank you very much, all gentlemen, Sujata Paul and Sanju Verma, for joining me on Debate One.